from losing everything and going into the depths of despair.
It was incredibly painful. I didn't work for 2 years. I lost everything, house, cars, this, that, It was one of the most brutal.
To rising from the ashes with the power of faith.
I remember saying to God, why have you forgotten about me? What have I done that I deserve this? And as soon as that came out of my mouth, Michael, I fell to the ground and started sobbing. And 2 minutes later, I got a phone call from Graham Yost, who wrote Band of Brothers and Boomtown. He goes, hey, you want to be the villain on a couple episodes of Justified? Yes.
Neal McDonough's story isn't just one of redemption. It's proof that God's plan never fails. And now, he's using his rise not for fame, but to push back against atheist Hollywood. We all know Neal McDonough as the ultimate villain, the man with the chilling stare and ironclad intensity. Whether he's playing the ruthless Damien Dark in Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow,
interesting technique, League of Assassins,
the cold-blooded Dum-Dum Dugan in Captain America,
Oh, hi, Peggy.
or Satan himself, he's made a career out of playing the bad guy.
Truth is that you're a liar. Your goal is misery.
I prefer the term chaos.
However, what almost no one sees is what happens when the cameras stop rolling. It is that this same man playing the villain has been fighting for light. Not just in interviews, not just in words, but in every decision, every role, every silent no to things that don't align with his faith. Behind the villains and the villains' monologues is a man who made a covenant with God, with his family and with himself, and refused to break it.
I have a great relationship with God, and that's kind of paramount to me, and it's God first, me second, or family first, me second. Those kind of the mantras that I always...
But Neal's journey didn't start on a Hollywood soundstage. It started in a small household in Massachusetts. He grew up in an Irish Catholic family with strong traditional values. His parents were immigrants who worked hard, loved God, and taught their kids to do the same. Neal was raised to believe in 3 things: work hard, stay humble, and always put God first. His brothers used to call him Headster, a goofy nickname for a kid who was full of energy and big dreams. Neal had a strong sense of right and wrong even as a kid, though he had no idea how much that would be tested later in life. Fast forward to the 1990s, and Neal's acting career was taking off. He was landing roles in huge projects like Minority Report, Band of Brothers, Desperate Housewives. His face was everywhere. Red carpets, fancy premieres, award shows. From the outside, it looked like he had it all. But behind the scenes, Hollywood was pushing him to compromise. The pressure was intense. People in the industry kept telling him to loosen up, to bend his morals a little to fit in. Directors offered him big roles, but there was always a catch. He had to go against the promise he made to himself. That meant doing kissing scenes, nudity, or playing characters in stories that went totally against his faith. Neal kept saying no, again and again, and every time he did, it cost him. The result? He was labeled difficult. Offers stopped coming. His once bright career began to spiral. The same industry that once celebrated him began quietly shutting doors.
Well, there was a time that, as everyone knows, I got penalized for not kissing women on screen, and they fired me, and everyone thought I was this religious zealot. Couldn't work for 2 years, lost my houses, lost my cars, lost everything.
Yeah, we all know that I kind of went through some troubles years back because I wouldn't do, everyone knows I won't kiss another woman on screen, so I kind of got in trouble for that. And at the time, it was incredibly painful. I didn't work for 2 years. I lost everything, house, cars, this, that. Most brutal times of my life, for sure.
But today, Neal McDonough isn't just surviving in Hollywood, he's thriving. And he gives all the credit to God for getting him through the hard times. So how did he go from feeling rejected and tested to standing strong and successful? He opened up about it in a powerful interview that really shows his heart.
In Hollywood, to be someone who's religious, now obviously you've talked about this ad nauseum and people know about it, but you've gotten released or couldn't do roles or refused to do roles based on you won't do a kissing scene, right? But
unless the great, I won't do kissing scenes. I've never wanted.
And the reason behind his unwavering stance will melt your heart. Neal explains what kept him strong, and it's beautiful. Because the reason behind his stance isn't just about faith. It's deeper than that. It's about loyalty. It's about love. And most of all, it's about the promise he made to the woman he loves, his wife.
I got crucified about 10 years ago where they thought I was this religious zealot, that I wouldn't do sex scenes. And it was really because I love my wife more than I love my craft. And people couldn't understand that. They couldn't grasp that. So I had to become the best bad guy because I had to provide for my 5 kids and a beautiful wife.
He refused to cross that line, no matter what Hollywood dangled in front of him. And honestly, isn't that incredible? In an industry where everyone's saying, come on, it's just acting, or everyone else is doing it, Neal stood his ground. While others were chasing fame with roles full of shock value, lust, and vulgar scenes, he walked a different path. A harder one, a slower one that might look crazy to Hollywood, but not to God. Because here's the truth, God honors obedience. And Neal, he's not just turning down fast cash and easy fame. He said yes to something greater. He has taken the path of creating what he believes in and works for. That's right. Acting, producing, writing, you name it. He's building stories that put God front and center. Neal is choosing purpose over popularity. And in today's world, that's rare.
This film that we just finished called Boone is that he's a hitman who has to find his place with God. And it's great that Renee and I now get to create vehicles for me that I get to write and be in, that I don't have to just do movies that are out there that I have to go. So for me to also have that ability to make movies that talk about God and talk about how we are flawed and how we all make mistakes and how it's how you get up after you make a mistake. Not if I never make a movie for anyone else again for the rest of my life, I'm okay with it. As long as I'm making movies
that's crazy.
that Renee and I are doing.
But like anyone walking the path of faith, Neal's journey hasn't been smooth or simple. Just because you follow God doesn't mean the road is easy. And Neal McDonough knows that better than most. Behind the red carpets and iconic roles were seasons of doubt, rejection, and soul-searching. There were moments when turning down roles meant turning down a paycheck, and when staying true to his beliefs meant losing opportunities. And yes, he's admitted it. There were nights he sat with his thoughts, wrestling with the weight of it all. But he didn't walk away. He didn't give in. Neal chose to trust that even in the silence, God was still writing his story.
It was Scoundrels, right? That was the big thing, that Scoundrels, you wouldn't do a sex scene or something, and then they released you. And so you saying after that, it was a very difficult time in your life for work? I mean, were you only getting back?
Talk about drinking then. There was 2 years of me not getting a job and losing my big house in Hancock Park and cars, and figured out myself. So I lost basically everything. And then, I've told the story before that, and me being a great, going to church every day, always praying, trying to figure out what's going on. And one day in my house, before we had to sell it, before it got foreclosed.
So lean in and listen closely, because what Neal's about to say next, it's nothing short of a miracle. Just when it seemed like every door had closed, when Hollywood had turned its back on him, God made a way.
I remember saying to God, why have you forgotten about me? What have I done that I deserve this? And as soon as that came out of my mouth, Michael, I fell to the ground and started sobbing. And 2 minutes later, I got a phone call from Graham Yost, who wrote Band of Brothers and Boomtown. He goes, hey, you want to be the villain in a couple episodes of Justified? Yes.
For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a future and a hope. Jeremiah 29-11. And just like that verse promises, when Neal stayed faithful, God opened doors no one else could. Not through compromise, but through conviction.
It was kind of the greatest thing that ever happened to me in so many ways, because I fell in love with acting again, because I had something to prove. I had to prove to everyone that, that I am a great actor and that, a person that you want to have on your side.
God didn't just lift Neal out of the pit, he opened a whole new chapter. And this new chapter got Neal back on his feet, revealing opportunities he never could have dreamed of. One with roles, projects, and platforms that aligned with his values, that celebrated faith instead of mocking it. That gave him space to shine without ever compromising who he is.
After the very first take of the first scene, Graham came up to me and goes, you want to be the villain for the whole year, don't you? And I said, yeah, I do. And I was. And because of that, awards came and attention came, and all of a sudden everyone started forgetting about the other stuff. And, it's been, the last 10 years of work has been for Arrow, Flash, and Legends, and then Yellowstone came up with that, and Suits, and all these other shows and movies. It's just been a phenomenal couple of years. And yeah, no,
and here's where it hits home. Neal's story isn't just for Hollywood insiders. It's not just a warning to actors who trade their faith for fame or sign on to roles that mock God. It's a message for all of us. People like you and me too. See, Satan's greatest trick is making us feel hopeless, like we're not enough, not good enough, that the only way to survive is by competing ruthlessly, forgetting our values, and chasing empty success. But God promises something different. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Psalm 119:105. With faith, his light shines through the darkest times. And here's the truth. The only person you ever need to compete with is the person you were yesterday.
Compete with is myself and be the best Neal McDonough that I can be. Then competition goes out the window, and then you can really zone in on being the best you actually can be. You can't be if you are taking other people into consideration for competition. And that's a hard lesson. Realize how unique and awesome you are, that God created only one me or one you. Then you don't care so much. And then when it doesn't go your way, you don't take it so brutally at times, you know, and when it does go your way, you don't get so overexcited because you're like, yeah, well,
But wait, how can someone who plays the villain so convincingly still walk so closely with God? And more than that, how can someone who claims to love God as deeply as Neal does still say yes to roles where he's literally portraying Satan himself? Isn't that a contradiction? Doesn't that go against everything the Bible teaches? It almost doesn't make sense, right? The same man who stares down heroes with icy eyes, who delivers bone-chilling threats and sinks into the darkest corners of humanity in character after character, is the same man who bows his head in prayer every night, raises his kids in the Word, and refuses to do a single scene that dishonors his wife or his God. So, how does that work? Well, Neal has the answer.
So how does a guy who doesn't kiss on screen end up playing the devil? It was a conversation I had with Reve, and it went something like, honey, I can't do this.
Like any faithful believer, Neal had his doubts too, but what his wife said next changed the way he viewed things entirely.
Thought about it, and she says, okay, look, you're probably the best villain on the planet. And I said, okay. And you're probably the only guy who has that kind of relationship with God in Hollywood that can pull this off and do it correctly and still figure out a way to make sure that this project gives glory to God and not to you as the actor.
The weight of these words, they may seem simple, but they hold immense wisdom.
And I thought about it, and then she said, well, who else could play this character but you? You have. But I do something in the film where, you know, Lucifer was God's guy. He was right there from the very beginning, and he did something at some point where he decided he was going to make it about himself. And every time anyone does that as a human being, you fall. And he fell, and boy did he fall. And he's trying to take all of us down with him. At the film, there's a moment where I can't believe that the guy that I'm trying to pull to my dark side won't do it because he loves.
Neal is tapping into one of the oldest, most chilling truths in the Bible here, the fall of Lucifer. And when he says Lucifer was God's guy, right there from the very beginning, he's not just talking about a character, he's talking about us. Isaiah 14:12-14 lays it out plainly. How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will be like the Most High. Lucifer's fall wasn't because he was weak. It was because he was proud. He wanted glory. He wanted to be the center. And that's the trap we all face in a world that screams, me first. But Neal drives it home even harder when he talks about that final moment in the film. When Lucifer can't believe that the guy he's trying to corrupt won't do it, because he loves God so much. That right there? That's James 4:7 in action. Submit yourselves then to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. And it echoes the truth of Romans 12:21. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. In that scene, the man says no, not because he's a hero, but because his love for God is stronger than any temptation. And that's the point Neal is making, that even in the darkest roles, the light of truth can shine. He's not glorifying evil, he's holding a mirror to it. And in doing so, he's showing us what real spiritual warfare looks like. Lucifer's fall was pride, but our victory is in humility, obedience, faith.
Inside Lucifer, even, I'm sure that wishes he never made that mistake. but there's no way of going back for him now. Maybe one day he will, and I pray that one day that he will, and maybe he'll watch this film and think, you know what, McDonough's right. You know, the only way through life and through this universe and through eternity is by adoring and loving God with all your heart and all your soul. So you never know.
So, to anyone out there struggling with faith, hope, or your career, feeling like the doors keep closing, like you're losing your way, here's Neal McDonough's message for you.
Be the best version of you every day, and great things will happen. Then you won't worry about temptations. You won't worry about, oh, I need to have that, or I need to have this. Temptations are always going to be there. It's up for you to be able to be strong enough to stay away from them, like alcohol. There are certain temptations out there that I need to get away from. I can face them straight on and say, no, thank you. It's having faith in yourself and believe that God's always got your back. And what could
Neal's message cuts to the heart of what it means to live with faith and integrity. It's not about avoiding temptation because it disappears, but about building strength each day to say, no thank you, I'm good. Life will throw temptations at you. The industry, the world, even your own doubts may try to pull you off course. But if you keep faith at the center, say no to what doesn't serve your soul, and commit to growing into the best version of yourself every day, you don't just survive, you thrive. Neal McDonough's story isn't just about Hollywood or fame. It's about faith, courage, and conviction in a world that constantly tests them. And if he can stand tall, then so can you. That's all for today. Share your thoughts on Neal's journey in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.